How long do you suppose that you will be dead? And what are all the things you won't be doing then that you could be doing now? So life is fast. Death will then last forever. And it's easy to get caught up in all the busyness of daily life and putting off the things that truly matter to you, that truly resonate with you, in order to placate societal norms and homogenize yourself and conform with a whole pile of people who are running right off the same cliff that you are. So when you start to remember and appreciate that time is as limited as it is, then every choice becomes more meaningful. The other day I was looking at the television and there was a program on, and on that program they were featuring this man, Danny Meyer, who is, as I understand, a restaurateur. And he said a couple of things that happened to catch my ear. He told this story of how he gave himself permission to pursue things in life that he was passionate about. And he told a story of having an encounter with his uncle, and his uncle posed the same question that I started this with, and I asked him directly how long he would be dead. And Danny Meyer went on to acknowledge how that immediately helped him to reframe his priorities by having acknowledged the briefness and the gift of what it is to have breath and be, and why it is so important that if you have the means and the opportunity to put yourself towards things that are pleasing to your heart, which allowed him to reframe his priorities. When I saw that, I had thought about the idea of memento mori, which means remember, you will die. And the importance of the idea is to effort yourself to constantly putting that into consideration and having an appreciation for the finite time in an effort of steering yourself away from the trappings of falling into the mundane and the conformity of the status quo, because life is so fast and finite, and death is forever, and there isn't any material thing that you can acquire in this world that you can take into the next. So why allow yourself to be harnessed with an undue burden that traps you away from moving towards exploring just what may be the most purposeful thing you could be doing? The idea isn't to suggest that you should abandon responsibility or fail to keep yourself, but rather it's to raise your level in where you do live with more intention, courage, and purpose. So if you're anything like me and you want to affect yourself with more of those three attributes, then we'll see what we can't take away from discussion about mortality and how keeping it in mind can help us to prioritize just what matters, to live life in a way where we mitigate regret. And while we can't stop the sand from flowing through the hourglass, we surely can be more conscientious of what actions we take while there is still sand there. So if you don't know, my name is Chad Joshua, and I'm working my way towards writing a 100-song catalog. And I write songs about populism and freedom and liberty, and I use my YouTube channel to promote my songs. I like to have these daily discussions to build a conversation about things we can develop and apply in our relative pursuits in order to make the most efficient use of our time and our effort. So why do you think it is that we avoid thinking about death when it is the one certainty in life? Maybe it is because it confronts our desire for control and permanence. But when we spend too much time denying death, it leads to procrastination and distractions, while keeping it in awareness leads to clarity and focus. So what about you? Why don't you tell me below one thing that you've been putting off because you're in a habit of feeling like there will always be more time. The thing about getting into a habit of thinking like this is when you start to focus on how limited time is, you're forced to decide what really matters to you. So what gives your life meaning? If you eliminate the distractions and you stop spending time on the things that don't align with your purpose, you start leaving yourself more time to move in the direction of things that are. Living intentionally, it means making choices that reflect your deepest values, not what's convenient or expected. The true you. I think for everybody, when we start to get a little bit older, all of this becomes a lot clearer. But then as soon as that realization hits, because we've been unpracticed and we haven't thought about this so directly and kept it in our present, we're kind of taken off guard by it, because we don't come to realize this until we begin to see the finish line start to emerge off in the horizon. And while it's never too late to do something better than you did it yesterday. There is a lot of lost time in coming to this sort of realization the hard way, because one way or another, you will. There's a feeling of importance of saving face and having a success that people or your family can talk about or be proud of you or something like that, or something that has to do with conforming yourself, where the weight and the burden of that idea is debilitating to the confidence that is necessary to lead by instinct. And while it's a fact that you need to eat, and you don't do yourself any good sweeping the leg out from under that, every single person that you know and every single person that's walking around today will be completely replaced by all new people in 100 years or so, with not so much of a memory of us here now. And from that moment on and forever, we're completely removed from whatever opportunity this is forever. So a very short nothing of 70 years or so juxtaposed to the absolute finiteness of forever. So it's fair to say you can give yourself a little bit of leeway, because who cares? Try, make it, go for it, reach towards something that you're interested in, own it. And if you get a little bit older, one way or another, you can rest easy knowing that you gave it the best you could. And if you have a little bit of struggle getting out of the life, so what? It's forever. You use the time you had towards the thing you were interested in. You go into the forever next, having expended the opportunity to its fullest. And maybe, yes, you could try to do that in a balanced way. And nothing is easy and nothing is perfect, but that is how it is perfect, because it's a struggle, it's a challenge, and it's the struggle and the challenge that provides the value for the effort that we put into working towards the things that provide us purposefulness. There's a lot of sacrifice that goes into artistic pursuits. Big gamble in terms of payoff. And if you're going to progress and work yourself towards those kinds of goals, then you have to square yourself with potential outcomes. But it doesn't all need to be the example of an artist, and there are other forms of art. I often argue that the idea of creating a business and building something, building a market, or finding a good to answer a market, moving yourself in that effort, bring that into being something that's tangible, is something I've always perceived as an art in itself. So it really does depend on your goal. But even in that example, there is still a risk. You have to put something in order to get something back. And while we all are striving to have a little bit of financial security, there is something else that we get back from just striving towards something that's personal to us. It matters to us. Why do I want to write songs? It doesn't make any sense. It's random. Why is that me? But that question isn't so important, really, I suppose. But I have to recognize that it is important to me. It is a compulsion to me. And it's almost like I'm sick if I'm not working towards it. And there is a bit of, concern that I'll have to reach some sort of a threshold to see that the tree becomes fruited, so I can remove any anxiety that might come from future planning. But any future planning that I do, I have to recognize that the limited amount of days that I have left will come to an end, and it will be an end forever. So then this is what I'm doing. This is what I'm going to do. Only now, taking into consideration with the enormity of mortality, the purposefulness sort of aligns in just the nature of knowing that so long as I'm going to pursue this, the way in which that I pursue it will have to be as deliberate as I can pursue anything. It would have to be deliberate as anything could be deliberate. Because why wouldn't it? Why would I choose a task that throws the weight of the world on my shoulders and only carry that task halfway? I mean, the fun of it is getting yourself up to speed. I'm certainly not standing at this point with exactly the amount of moxie that I need to be there today, but every day I get a little bit more refined, a little bit more hardened to the task, and the world's more deliberate than the last day. And if you're anything like me, then you already know what I get out of that. So ask yourself, how does all your fear and all your uncertainty, all your anxiety keep you from living to your fullest? And what can you do to move around that? Certainly there's a fear of failure, fear of rejection, fear of uncertainty. All these things can keep us from pursuing the things that we should be, but taking action despite that fear is the antidote. The more you act, the less power fear holds over you, because time doesn't wait for fear to fade. You have to move forward anyway. And I've said this before, courage isn't the absence of fear. It's choosing to act despite it. Action leads to growth, fulfillment, and clarity. So when you're gone, what is it you want to be remembered for? And right before you go, what do you want to be happy to reflect on? Live in alignment with your values, so your actions reflect the story that you want to leave behind. The small daily choices you make create a lasting ripple effect. Build your legacy moment by moment, and every choice you make shapes your story. It's sort of like planting a tree. You may not see it fully grown, but its shade will benefit others. So how do you align your daily actions with the legacy legacy that you want to leave. While there's still daylight, get out there and get to it. And in the meantime, if you haven't heard my new song, you can listen to it here. You keep your head up, and I'm gonna keep mine up. And we'll talk again soon.